Hello, welcome to theCUBE studio here in Palo Alto for a special presentation with Broadcom VMware. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE, talking about delivering the modern private cloud with the launch of VCF-9. Keith Woolley is here. He's the Chief Digital Information Officer at the University of Bristol in the UK. Keith, welcome to theCUBE, good to see you.
Hi John, welcome. Thanks very much for having me.
We heard a lot today about the trends, technology, architectural approaches, even what's new with VCF. Now we get to hear from you who's implementing VCF, a customer. So thanks for coming on. Set the table, talk about what you do there at the university, scope the environment, what's it like and what do you do?
So John, my role as the Chief Digital Information Officer is to look after all of the mainstream technology that we have at the university. We operate mainly out the UK at this moment in time, but we obviously collaborate globally. So we work with many partners around the world. And we're a campus university, so I have the pleasure of actually delivering technology into over 300 sites in the UK.
And the technology you guys have there, it's research, academic?
Yeah, it's a cross-platform. We're what's called a 50-50 university. So we have about 32,000 students, 7,000 staff, and we're working around 50-50 on the education to research capability. We're $1 billion enterprise, so we've got a large-scale IT infrastructure, and we are one of the major partners now for national infrastructure for AI in the UK and in Europe.
Talk about the transition from the classic IT to kind of the modern era you're in. I mean, obviously you got to set the table for all the work you're doing, the environment's demanding. We know security is obviously a big concern. You got sovereignty. What's the environment like? What's been the approach that you guys have had?
You got to think about the history rather than just what's the approach now. So the history of the universities is that very organically grown infrastructure, because universities were at the forefront of most things. So when I came in, one of the things that I realized very quickly was that we had a traditional infrastructure environment, very server-based, very standalone application-based, a lot of it homegrown. And then you get the transition of moving that to something that you can actually demonstrate, not only the fact that you need to be secure now. Secure is only one word in the whole technology stack. You have to be trusted. And so I had to move an environment that we could talk about being a legacy infrastructure environment into something that was very agile and flexible. And if I was to think about what I was needing to do, I needed to have an adaptive technology business platform that could actually deliver business cases that weren't even imagined yet. And that was the challenge that I was facing. How can I move our technology from something that's very legacy into something that I don't even know what business case I'm trying to address? And there is the main challenge, and that's what I've been working on.
That's awesome. You guys almost envision the future. The enablement need to be there. What's been the approach on the private cloud? Why is private cloud the approach for the University of Bristol?
Well, even if we take that, again, a slightly step back as to why private cloud, why not public cloud? There's a couple of things that I really wanted to make sure that I could achieve to start with. First of all, I needed a secure and cost-optimized environment. I couldn't be in a hyperscale environment where I didn't know from day to day what my cost model may be. So I needed something that we could actually position well, control correctly. And also I wanted a facility that could really facilitate flexibility in my digital and also my environmental asset utilization. So naturally I was drawn to, I need my own data centers, but I didn't need the overhead that came with a data center. I needed the flexibility of the cloud. Private cloud gives me both. So I got the control that I needed so I could actually have auditable sovereignty and demonstrate trust in a data center that we manage and have control against and can actually do our cost optimization with, but with the flexibility of cloud technologies that I can run on any technology. I can run it on any tin. So I get the best of all worlds inside an environment, and it gives me that flexibility to grow.
I love that sovereignty trust angle. It really makes sense, especially with AI. Everyone wants to have all their crown jewels on-prem, have it right there and manage the resource effectively. How did it all begin? Take us through the story for VCF and kind of where you guys are. Take us through that journey. What was the platform rolled out? How did you guys adopt it? What was the origination? And kind of take us through how it all began and kind of where you're at.
It came from really, and John, on this one, it came from trying to solve a business problem we had immediately, which was an aging platform that needed to be virtualized. So we did the classic VM virtualization to start with. And once we started down that route, I started working very closely again with our senior leadership team at VMware. and looking at your strategic roadmaps as to what they were creating, where they were going. And this is, by the way, started in a 2019 vision. So in 2019, we wrote the first digital strategy to actually take us from an environment that was very organically grown, very ran traditionally, and we set out ourselves to build ourselves what we classed as a boundaryless education and research capability. So we could operate anywhere in the world, have the flexibility without having to move data around, without breaking through the boundaries of going between hyperscalers. So 2019, we started this journey. We started with a business problem we were trying to fix, but we set out a strategic vision that said that eventually we will get to the place where we've got total strategic flexibility. And that's how we got to where we got to. But we worked directly with VMware to make sure this could happen. We started putting VCF in over 4 years ago, and we've built on that platform ever since. We've actually built out VDI, virtual desktop environments around it as well, so that we have the whole stack. And we're getting really excited as well. We're running the latest version at the moment of 5.2.1, but we're getting really excited about getting into version 9. Because when we start thinking about version 9, I can really start to move into multi-tenancy. And multi-tenancy with our AI capability gives me absolute what I need to be able to take the university to the next level. So we're getting really excited about that. We can talk a lot about that today if you want to, John, but that's where we're going to.
Let's get into some of those capabilities. Multi-tenancy is great when you start having all these experiments, boundary lists. I mean, that's implied. You got the right call right before COVID, certainly. That's nice headroom there. I'm sure that's going to scale out into as people work these new workloads. What are some of the capabilities? You got multi-tenancy, anything else? You mentioned sovereignty. That's a huge thing. You got a lot of IP, you got a lot of data. What are some of the key capabilities you like the most around VCF-9?
Well, apart from the fact that I can make sure that I've got this thing secure and I can actually test the security before I deploy it because it's software-driven data centers. We're in a position also where I can demonstrate that to our client base that we partner with. And as a university, we partner with significant research partners around the world. And they are looking to be able to know that what they are working on with us isn't getting contaminated with anything else. And so the multi-tenancy side of things gives me absolute certainty that that's not going to happen. So we've got that real control. Also, the fact that we can set up our Kubernetes stacks, the way in which we can do containerization. We could sit here all day and go through all of the different application layers that actually the VCF platform brings to us, because it's a true suite of complete capability. And depending on what use case you're looking for, especially as we go into version 9, we've basically got the whole tool set to be able to deliver what we need. But segmentation, security, trust, as I say, sovereignty, in the fact that we work in a UK environment at the moment. We are also governed by European policy for what we do with AI and the way in which we manage data, as well as UK policy, and they're different. And then we're working with worldwide policy around trust. There's loads of different things that we're trying to balance. And the great thing is, and it's a pleasure to be able to say it's about a product in the marketplace, it actually meets the requirements. It actually does what it says on the tin. So we're in a very fortunate position that I have the adaptive technology that I need, and I can scale it at my own requirements. I don't have to buy massive amounts of hyperscale and then worry about how I'm going to move it or use it. I can scale as I go.
I mean, that's a great story. And, a lot of people say that having that platform, that unification, if you will, or having that capability gives a lot of leverage. For you, it's research and other things, and then you got the cost, complexity, and compliance to deal with. You don't have to worry about if it's in that platform. What has been some of the outcomes? We've seen a lot of great examples of, certainly on research side, where people are doing stuff in open source and they have proprietary data and they want to collaborate across the environments, across the boundaries. There's a lot of cool examples. What are some of the outcomes, Keith, you're seeing that's coming out of this operating value, leverage, whatever you want to call it? I mean, you got that one management plane, gives you a lot of advantages. A little simple to run, but takes care of all the cost, complexity, and compliance.
And again, John, it depends which hat I put on when I answer that question. Because
what are your business hat?
Yeah, it depends which lens you want to look at it. Because if I look at it from how does my departmental areas now run and how efficient has that now become, it's significantly different. A single pane of glass, single management structure, a way in which we can now control all of our cybersecurity, patching capability, rollout, deployment, rollback, all in there. So from an operational standpoint, it revolutionizes the way in which we operate. Rather than just looking at single boxes, single tin, we have a platform as a service that's software driven, and we can actually make sure our policies and processes are driving it. From a business standpoint, when I think about one of the first reasons why I looked at putting cloud in, and I looked at how we were getting our financial grants coming in for research, and why also at that time, the digital department wasn't the shop of choice for our academics. And it was, well, what do I need to do to change that? And when I got into the actual understanding that the reason they weren't using me as a shop of choice was it came down to I was too expensive and I was too slow in responding. One of the first things that happened with VCF was our capability to automate. And so we've now put the technology in the hands of our academics through scripting. They go to a portal, they subscribe to a build, and they can build the services that they need when they need them in minutes, rather than actually waiting for tin to be delivered and configured and all the rest of it. So our time to research is significantly decreased, and our value model in our research has increased substantially. Also, as we go through that, we have a hyperscale stack that we can walk through. We go from desktop compute into actual our VCF environment and all the way up to national infrastructure. We can share code between our partners who are also working with VCF platforms. So it gives us massive capability for collaboration, and I don't even have to move any of the data from my network. So from a business standpoint, it means that we can absolutely operate quickly. We can respond to technical needs virtually immediately, and we can scale out depending on the research that we require. We're now in a process where we are teaching our students how to actually run cybersecurity courses inside our VCF environment as well. It's that secure to allow us to do it. So we can now teach and research within this platform, and we could never do that before.
Keith, that's a great testament to having a private cloud. It's your cloud, right? You could do whatever you want with it. You get the team benefits, so you got really strong efficiency with the teams. You got the business agility and speed, and now you're actually repurposing it for courseware and cybersecurity training. Was that on the radar, or was that more of a surprise benefit out there?
It was. This is a platform, Joe, that you don't know the business cases you're going to imagine until you imagine them, right? And being in a university, we talk about imagining things because we develop things. The next minute we'll have an idea about something, and we need to be able to respond to that idea, and that's how innovation starts. And when we put this platform in and we start getting people excited about the self-serve capability, which is where it started in our academic community, and we then started talking to our student communities, and one of the benefits that the students got out of this was, especially when we put the virtual desktop to it, we gave digital equity to our students. And what we were finding was that we could take out the barriers between students that could or could not afford particular technologies and put a level playing field in there as well. So these were benefits we never envisaged in the first place, but have actually started to drive out here now. And I think what we're now starting to understand, the more we utilize the platform, is that you have to start testing it and saying, what else can this do? And we are now starting to really think about how we do containerization differently, how we even educate to write code and containerize differently. So we're in a very different position to what we can do in this, and how we then start thinking about our coursework to deliver.
We love to talk about speeds and feeds. We get under the hood, talk about Kubernetes, talk about all the microservices, the scale of the platform.
Yeah.
What you just kind of highlighted is interesting because in a way, the democratization value to the end user is an advantage. That's a benefit that goes into the outcome, which is, hey, what's computing for? And with all these new use cases, you got certainly AI out there. You mentioned data movement, that's a cost, but also value to the researcher, to the student. So you're having all these kind of edge benefits to the consumption side. So you got the value creation with VCF, and now you got the value extraction to the end users, right?
Yep.
The people who need it, need the compute, they need the data, they need to do research. Who knows where the next breakthrough is going to come from? And I think that time to value story is really, really key. Who knows? That student that's on the equity plan says, hey, you know what? I made a breakthrough. I discovered a new algorithm. You don't know.
And John, also, we don't know. And what we are doing now also is we're learning better around how to use our resources more effectively as well. So um, again, the platform allows me to give and take capability, as in CPU, GPU, memory, so on, right? So it means that depending on what we're trying to run in that environment, I can allocate cores and I can allocate GPU to it. So I'm not now bound by the fact that I put particular tin on a box onto a desk. So we can now start thinking about how we set up our labs. And one of the things that was really important to me was to be able to change a word in a sentence. And the word I wanted to change was or. We used to be able to build labs that could do one thing or another. Now we build labs that can do whatever we want. It's an and statement. So we can run Windows workshops, we can run Linux workshops, we can run high-powered graphical workshops. These are all things now we can do on the same equipment because of the way in which we've set this thing up. The other difference we get is that as a university, students go home. And then what you have is a load of equipment that potentially is not being utilized. Because it is our cloud, because I can now configure it how I like, I can take things that used to be configured up for small server or desktop environments through VDI, and I can pull all of those resources together and make it a high-performance compute environment and run high-quality research jobs on it, and I can schedule them. So now I've got a multi-talented, multitasking environment that's at our control. So my GPU, CPU investments are constantly being utilized. Or I can shut them down and take all of the environmental benefit from them as well. So there's so many different cases for the organization we work in as a seasonal business that this gives me so much flexibility to be able to manage that.
It's a great resource. And just great to compare that to the old way. What would be the use case or the scenario without VCF if you had traditional IT? It's too much work. You know, it's the context switching in the work of all. Just paint that picture. What's the old way look like? And then now with VCF, hey, people go home, let's turn on the supercomputing. Crunch those jobs. No change to the workloads.
Well, if we look at a typical lab in a previous environment, it would have been kitted out at a particular point in time, and it would have been kitted with the latest and the highest technology we possibly can to make sure we stay on the leading edge. After 2 years, that will now be just on an edge. It won't be leading anymore. It'll just be fit for purpose. 3 to 4 years in, it's no longer fit for purpose. It's old technology. Now, we would then need to still financially sweat that asset as much as we could, but it's already started to age.
Yep.
With the way in which we're running our technology now, we can keep the actual core up to date and make sure it has the CPU, GPU capabilities there. Yeah. And we can just keep moving with the times. We can keep adding capability into those local environments. When we think about the server environments we used, well, we still operate, we're still migrating across. You think about the server environments, they're fixed. They're a fixed environment. It has a limited amount of resource it can have. We can't scale easily for when we have seasonal business. And of course, we are a seasonal organization. So when we want to make sure that we are running our applications that make it possible for us to take in new students, and we're looking at all of our clearing and making sure that we are taking in people coming onboarded, we need to be able to scale up. And that's very, very difficult to do unless you can actually move a Kubernetes stack around and give it more resource. And in the past, it was sat on a static box. Yeah. And that box got busy. So those type of things now give us lots and lots of more flexibility and control to actually run our business more efficiently.
Yeah, it's a great resource. Scale up, scale out on all capabilities. Be flexible and work in those benefits. You get the cost savings, the IT modernization all in play. It's been a great conversation, Keith. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story with the theCUBE audience. If you had some sage advice for your peers evaluating VCF, trying to understand their own paths to the private cloud, what advice would you give? Obviously, you're deep in it. You got really good use cases. You got a great enablement. You got outcomes you're hitting now, and then enabling future outcomes. What advice would you give other folks?
Make sure you have a great partner to come with you on this journey that understands VCF well. You still have to know how to run cloud. And making sure that you have somebody alongside you to keep you current on that skill set is definitely the way to go. But also be very open-minded. what you think you're buying this for and what you end up doing with it could be two totally different things, and the business benefit you'll gain from it will be significant. It can run all your AI jobs. It can give you that sovereignty you're looking for, and there's hidden benefits in here that we're only just starting to discover.
Keith, thanks for coming on, and congratulations on all the great work at the university where there's great breakthroughs on the research side. You got students innovating. The innovation's happening super fast. You're enabling it with VCF-9. Congratulations, and can't wait to hear what's next.
John, thank you for your time. I hope theCUBE goes well. Take care.
Appreciate it. Okay, we are here in the Palo Alto studio for the special presentation of Broadcom VMware, delivering the modern private cloud. You heard it from a customer who's deep in VCF, looking forward to expanding the scope of the value. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. Thanks for watching.